Hello, in this video I'm going to once again be talking about movies, but today I'm going to be talking about a different aspect of that. So today I'm going to be talking about what some of my favorite movies of all time are. These movies can be from any genre and are based on different criteria. For example, I'm going to be including in this list The Lion King, partly because I think it's a great film that has catchy and memorable songs, great visuals, along with a well told story and great acting from all the different actors and actresses that are involved in this film. But part of the reason I'm including The Lion King is also for sentimental reasons, because I used to own The Lion King on VHS tape back when I lived in New York, and I would play the Be Prepared scene just to sing along to that song. I've watched this movie quite a good amount of times. I've sung that song Be Prepared many times before. So I'm including The Lion King both for more objective reasons, but then also for more subjective reasons. I'm also going to be including I'm going to be including both Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I think both of these films are great, but for different reasons. The first film mixes several different genres like action, romance, horror, sci fi, fantasy, blends them all together really well. It's definitely more simple. Going back and watching the Terminator now, especially if you've watched the other Terminator films, is an interesting experience because the first film does certainly feel more quaint in comparison to the more recent Terminator films, more restrained, since it's definitely more simple than the Terminator films that came after it, and it's not a big blockbuster film either. The second film, by contrast, is much more of a blockbuster that has big action set pieces. It definitely still has elements of horror and sci fi in it, but it's much more of a pure action movie. And then I'm also going to be including Alien and Aliens because I love both films, but for different reasons, however. Similar to what I was just talking about, Aliens plays out much more like an action film, though it still definitely has horror in it. The first film is a more simple, slower paced horror film that's very much about building up to the moments of horror. It does that very effectively. Though if you've seen a lot of modern day films and then you watch Alien for the first time, you will definitely be taken aback, I would say, by the slower pace that this film has. I mean, for the first 7 minutes, there's no dialogue at all. And then it's not until like an hour in where you have the chest burster scene that's so iconic. Then it's not until like an hour and a half in where you actually see the full grown alien creature in an hour and a half in a movie that's like 2 hours 15 minutes, something like that. Therefore, you don't actually see the full grown alien creature that much, which works to the film's favor. Because after all, as the old saying goes, what is very frightening is the fear of the unknown. This very much applies to horror films. But I'm also going to include Elf, Mrs. Doubtfire, Dumb and Dumber, because those are some of my favorite comedies. But then I'm also going to include The Dark Knight as well. This is one of the best comic book films out there. It's definitely different from other comic book films. Obviously, as everyone has talked about, Heath Ledger gives an incredible performance. but there are many things that are great about the movie aside from the Joker. And I'm also going to include the film Joker as well as Logan, because I really appreciate how those two films are a breath of fresh air in the comic book genre. They both very much stand apart from other comic book films. Joker plays out much more like a drama, and it's not a film about a hero or a group of heroes. No, quite the opposite. The film is a tragedy about a normal person descending into madness and insanity. And then Logan feels much more like a Western than either a comic book film or a superhero film. Also, I'm going to be including your Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, along with the free Lord of the Rings movies. I mentioned those during the video that I posted yesterday. So now branching out, when it comes to Pixar films, I'm going to include. I could include a ton of Pixar films, honestly. I'm going to include Inside Out because this is just a fantastic film has this, that really has that explores this very creative idea about emotions as very powerful moments and very powerful message that it conveys. I'm also going to include Coco as well. It's such a great celebration of Mexican culture. It portrays that culture very well. It has a very powerful message, very powerful emotional moments, along with great acting, a well-told story, and the Land of the Dead is a very visually stunning location. I'm going to include all the Toy Story films. Frankly, I think that the four Toy Story films are about equal in quality. And let's see, there's a lot more Pixar films I could include here, but I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on though. I mentioned The Lion King earlier, but what's another Disney film that I'm going to include? Um, I'm going to say Zootopia, because the idea of a world where you have all these animals, both big and small, animals as small as a mouse and as big as an elephant, living side by side, is very creative. The two main characters, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde, form a really great pair. The relationship between them is done very well, and the message of the film is quite a relevant one that's told really well. Now, to be clear, so that no one that's watching this video misunderstands, I wasn't saying there that Nick and Judy are a couple. No, they have there's a really good friendship that forms between them, because at first they don't like each other at all, but then they start working together at first reluctantly. But then as time goes on, it's definitely a bond that forms between them. And I'm also going to include Kung Fu Panda 2. I'm moving on now to DreamWorks films. So we include Kung Fu Panda 2, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Shrek 2. In all these cases, I think the second film is the best when it comes to the Shrek movies, How to Train Your Dragon movies, and Kung Fu Panda movies. Now, moving on, let's see. Indiana Jones, I talked about that in a previous video. Raiders of the Lost Ark, along with the Last Crusade. Jurassic Park is one of my favorites as well. This film is absolutely a classic. The score is iconic. The visual effects are great. The performances are all great. The story is well told. And then I'm also going to include Psycho because it's one of my favorite horror films. And then I'm also going to include I'm going to include Rocky because when it comes to sports films, that is a classic. Actually, for that reason, I'm going to include Sandlot as well, because I'd say that it's a classic sports movie. And Karate Kid, actually. Like, those three all come to mind, honestly, when I think about iconic sports films. And then I'm also, let's see, going to include, I have to, I'm going to include the two Paddington movies because these movies are so heartwarming. They come off as so sweet, pure, and innocent because our main character, Paddington, is so incredibly likable. There's nothing, there's no cynicism to him at all. He's just so pure and innocent. He makes everyone around him better. So I love both of those movies. And then let's see. Also, I'm gonna include Bumblebee as well because I found that film to be so refreshing. That's due to the fact that I find Bumblebee to be the best Transformers film that's been made. No contest. I think it's leagues better than the Michael Bay Transformers films, which admittedly is not saying that much because those films are not good. But Bumblebee is a shorter film that does not have fluff to it, doesn't have an excessive amount of action. The action that does have is really well done. The performances are really good. The story is well told. The visuals are really good. The friendship between Bumblebee and Charlie that forms in that film is great, and the music is good. It was so refreshing for me to say, wow, this is actually a great Transformers film. So that'll be it for today. Let's see. Wait. Oh yeah, the MCU. Yeah, I didn't. So okay, favorite films all time. So not going to delve any further into this, but Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame, Black Panther, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, as well as what was the other one I included? I don't remember exactly, but I'll say, but I'm gonna say yeah, Iron Man. That's what it was. Iron Man. Those five. I'm gonna include those. And then when it comes to the non-MCU Spider-Man films, I'm gonna include both Spider-Man 2 as well as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So that'll be it for this video.